Well, not only filmmaker, see, my favorite writer is Stephen King, and like him, I am eccentric. And whenever I'm just at home, relaxing, I let my brain just wander because it entertains me. And what I see, I write down. And I've got two very short stories for you. The first one's kind of light. It is called A Big Apology. Bear with me if I'm not professional. Main character's name is Willie. Willie was sitting in his best friend's car with a bouquet of flowers in his hands. He sat there looking at a house with high hopes. Hey, that's me, Willie Oates. That was yesterday, sitting in my best friend's ride while I was working up the guts to see a woman the flowers were for. Her name is Bobby Joe Ryan. This story started about a year ago. I woke up and couldn't remember my own name. I kept going in and out of consciousness. Matt Elliott was my best friend, and I stayed with him for a while until I could remember where I lived. I eventually became his roommate. He and I hung out in his living room the first few days that I stayed with him, and he helped me try to remember who I was and why I was in a hospital. From my Swiss cheese memory, I kept having a recurring image of a beautiful woman. Odds are, I was kicked out of our place because my last memory of her has bad vibes with it. I didn't have any injuries, but we thought I had an accident after being relocated into the streets from her house. It took a month to get that far. Matt and I were best friends in college. We attended the University of Central Missouri. We hadn't seen each other for 5 years, but I have no memory of why, probably lost touch. After I became his roommate, we decided to look for this girlfriend of mine. I don't know what I did to make the girl mad, but I plan on apologizing for it. I plan a big apology for it. Within the next 6 months, my memory started to produce bits and pieces. The name Bobby Joe began to roll off my tongue from time to time. Could be her, or a friend, or a family member. I did a Google search for the name, and the picture of a woman I remembered was in the first of 20 Bobbies to pop up. The one thing I remember about her was how pretty she looked. I learned that her last name was Ryan. I researched where she lived and planned to surprise her with flowers. I thought that a year without seeing me was enough time to be forgiven for whatever I had done. I didn't worry about the possibility of a new man in her life because if it were meant to be, then she'd be mine eventually anyway. So there I sat in my best friend's car with flowers in my hand. I would have to make this really good because it had been a year and she had made no contact with me that I know of. She might have tried, I suppose. I lost my phone the night I woke up. I got out of the car, walked across the yard, and approached her front door. I gave myself one last quick grooming, taking full advantage of first impression. I then rang a doorbell. I heard the sound of the bell traveling through the house. I didn't hear anyone coming to the door, so I rang it a second time. "Come in," she called. She must have been in the back portion of the place because her voice sounded faint. I entered the door and shut it behind me. "I'll be right there. My hands are full," she called. "Sarah, is that you?" "Not Sarah," I replied. "Who's that?" she asked, sounding chipper. She emerged from the side of the house to my left where the kitchen was and dusted off her hands. She then stopped dead in her tracks when she saw me. I smiled. "I'm sorry for whatever I did that got me kicked out of your life. Can we start over? I didn't mean to say that last part so soon, but I was nervous." She reacted with a whimper and ran for me. I opened my arms to embrace her, and before I knew it, she kicked me in the head with a powerful blow of her sneaker. She had strong legs. I then woke up where I am now, in the county jail with a big red footprint on half of my face. While in jail, I learned that she was never my girl. The night I had woken up was the last time I had seen her, but it was also the first time I'd seen her. Me and an old buddy whom I never heard from after that night were trying to rob her. That was my memory of her with bad vibes. The memories presented themselves as I speak, thanks to the kick in the head. It jarred my memory. I had some sort of accident. My partner took me to a doctor wherever it was. And then before the police knew we were there, he left me on the front door of my old best friend's house. Oops.